So I want to do more why you should read on the channel. I've now done a why you should read for Mistborn and a why you should read for Stormlight Archive, Mistborn, and I think I've done others. I just don't remember, but I want to do more because I know a lot of my subscribers haven't watched a lot. I haven't read a lot of the things I haven't read. I have reviewed and covered on the channel, so I want to do more why you should reads for it because. Mainly because because a lot of you haven't read everything that I've read, so I just kind of want to cover more on in general. So I'm doing today. It's gonna be Chronicles of Narnia, and I really think you should read this. And a lot of people can say, "Oh, it's a kid's book. Let's wave it off." And I know I've got some bad coverage from people like Daniel Gordon. They've not given great coverage for the Chronicles of Narnia, but I do think it's something very worth your time reading. And so if you really do like Lord of the Rings, it's not exactly like Lord of the Rings, but it has some Lord of the Rings kind of moments. And I know if you probably know, the author was good friends with J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote Lord of the Rings. So this doesn't really write like Lord of the Rings, but it has olden time writing, but also not being as hard to read as Lord of the Rings because it's a children's book, but it's just really just if you like Lord of the Rings, there's similarities to this, and I think they're not huge similarities, but they are definitely similar in some places, and this is a classic fantasy. So second thing is it's more than a kid's book. I feel like some books are only designed for kids, and even some of the older classics that were designed for kids are really available to all ages of enjoyers. So I think any age could enjoy this book, no matter what, because it's great for a kid who needs to get something to read, even though it's hard. It's old and because it was written in the 50s, so what do you expect? It's kind of older, but it's also kind of easy to access. It's not like Lord of the Rings in the sense that the writing style is very hard to grasp, but it also has still a beautiful prose in the writing style, and I really just think it's really for all ages, and it's just great in every aspect of it. And my third reason is because there's 7 books in the series, and a lot of people think, oh, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and Prince Caspian are the only good ones, and that's couldn't be farther from the truth. I think every one of them, except for 2 of them, I did not really like. And actually, one of them was what's it called? Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe is one of the ones I did not like, which is the one most people read and give up on. And I didn't really like it either. I think I was okay, yeah, these people had an adventure. And one of my gripes about it was that the final battle, the climax, was literally 10 pages from the end of it. Or not even 10, probably 5 pages from the end of it. So, it all battles, and then they're all good. That's it. It's very a kid's story, oh yeah, this happens. But it only gets better. I loved Prince Caspian, and that's what a lot of people stop at. Because, that's just and the Voyage of the Dawn Treader was one of my favorites. I really loved it, because those last 2 books, the Voyage of the Dawn, the Chronicles of Narnia, the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and Prince Caspian, they were kind of, oh, let's get ready for this battle. Let's all get ready for this battle. Oh, we fight. Oh, we're good now. We're good. And that's a lot of kids' story. Oh yeah, that's a kind of a kid's old fantasy story. But in this Voyage of the Dawn Treader, it was a boat trip. You were exploring C.S. Lewis's world building on a boat with I don't know if it was Prince Caspian. I haven't read this book in forever, Voyage of the Dawn Treader. But it was Prince Caspian or his son, I believe. Either one of the 2. And it was really excellent, send-off to all of the characters. And even, I think Lucy and Edmund, not the 2 older ones, were portrayed in The Silver Chair. And The Silver Chair I had little expectations for. Because of just how little it was covered, and I was I've never heard about The Silver Chair before I started picking it up, and I was oh, probably just gonna be one of the bad ones, and it was not. It was really not disappointing. The new character, I think, no, it was not Edmund, but there was a new character. there was a new character in this book. I can't remember the name for the life of me. Who was introduced in The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Kind of has an adventure with Lucy and Edmund, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But I know they go on this adventure, and that it did not feel like a kid's book. It kind of lost me. I love The Silver Chair. It was actually one of my favorites, is The Silver Chair, because of just how like a normal fantasy story it flowed like, and like it creeped me out at some points. It really just like invested me in the story, and Silver Chair was really excellent. And then my favorite in the series, which you would not know about because it's the last battle, not the final battle, but like the final battle was basically like the Avengers Endgame of Chronicles of Narnia, because it was genius. Like, because I think like it was like very it's very overlooked. It's just like, oh, it kind of ended, but it pulls everything together. C.S. Lewis makes a perfect ending, which makes you think. The ending makes you think as to why you should read. So I'm not going to spoil it, obviously, but it makes you think. The villains you hated, I hated the villains in this one, and I really just think I thought it was done excellently. I haven't seen many good reviews for the last battle in particular, but I give it an amazing review from me. So I really just definitely think the last battle was my favorite one, followed by the Silver Chair, followed by The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I think it gets better every one, which is weird. I love the series. Like, literally every one stepped up. Except for probably Silver Chair and Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which would be flipped. I liked Voyage of the Dawn Treader more than Silver Chair, but still I like that one more than Prince Caspian. But I really loved all of them. And my least favorite book of the series, which was it occurred during, I think, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe is when it occurred. It was like, not a prequel, but just kind of like a side story. Horse and His Boy, it follows Shasta, and I do not like that book. You can see one of my very old reviews. I don't recommend you watch it, but it's a very old review for The Horse and His Boy. I did not like it, and I just think very negatively on that one. It's not very amazing. And then the Magician's Nephew, which was an amazing prequel. I really just thought, I read it. I made the mistake of reading it before Chronicles of the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but I really don't regret it that much because I really didn't really take away from a lot of it. And I knew the basic plot of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, so I knew where it was coming from, the prequel, and like I could see, oh yeah, this thread's in there and this thread's in there. You can see it. Well, characters are really well fleshed out. You can tell it's kind of like a Sherlock Holmes type of setting, and it was really, really well done. And it's just a lot of old, kind of the prequel stuff was really good. And I think one of my favorite parts about Last Battle, it ties in so much to The Magician's Nephew, and it made me feel so good. And it's just a lot of it was just amazing, and I really loved all of these books. But my the next reason is basically they're extremely easy to read. Looking at this kind of makes you intimidated, but really just don't, because these are thick pages and they're big text. And each book took me one day to read. And it was just, I could read them once a day, and one day a week I would just read one Chronicles of Narnia, and I was done. And it was really, really light read. It's really not going to take much of your time. So yeah, I got most, because it was it's very light. It's nothing like Lord of the Rings where you need to contemplate on. I'd say Lord of the Rings, it's 1,000 pages. It does not feel like 1,000 pages because you need to think, you need to stop and realize what's going on. And it's the words are very small and compact, and it does not feel like 1,000 pages. Whereas Stolen Archives always feels shorter than what it is because you're having so much fun, and the writing style is so easy to access. But it's so big, but it's easier to access once you've already reading it, which is the opposite for Lord of the Rings. And I think Chronicles of Narnia kind of falls into, it really just really easy. Time flies by, and it's not a hard read to pick up. It's not a commitment whatsoever. I feel it's just not kind of like that. And one of my last things is a lot of people say, oh, you better read it in publication order and not in chronological order. I did not know that until it was halfway through the series that one of my friends pointed out to me, hey bro, you need to read it in publication order. And I had already read Magician's Nephew, so I was so I saved Horse's Boy for when it was in chronological order, which I do not regret. the Horse's Boy, because I did not like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe that much. And if I just read a Horse's Boy right after that, I would be severely disappointed in like two bad books in a row. And I don't know, but like reading all those, reading Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Prince Caspian, and what is his name? And Voyage of the Uncharted Silver Chair, then Horse and His Boy, then Magician's Nephew, then Last Battle is what I think. I don't read that like that way. You look it up the publication order. I would looking a video on it like just like looking up when the I recommend publication order mainly because it's just like it flows so much better. Even though I kind of made the mistake of reading Magician's Nephew first. Even now, looking back, I've read all the books. I would say I would probably do. If I did a reread, I would probably do publication order. And I know there was a funny there was a funny man carrying thing video about like the reading orders and like because they were so complicated. But there's two actually. There's just two. It's publication and chronological, and you can read either. This is really not a big deal. Don't let people fool you. But that's my why you should read for Chronicles of Narnia. I think is a very worth your time, and it's not for everyone. You're not probably gonna love it, but it's such an easy read and it's so classic. So it's good to give it a try no matter what. So I just really like it. So see you guys in the next video. Peace.